There's a generation of adults walking around with a very specific and very invisible wound. They were told, consistently and with genuine love, that they were special, that they were talented, that they could be anything, that their feelings mattered deeply, that failure was just a stepping stone, and that something extraordinary was lined up for them if they kept believing hard enough. The people who said this were not wrong to love them, but the message, absorbed deeply enough across a childhood and adolescence, produced something its senders never intended. It produced adults who are extraordinarily bad at being ordinary. And ordinary is where almost all of life actually happens, for almost all people, almost all of the time. Manson is careful here, and it is worth being equally careful. This is not an argument against self-esteem or an argument for telling children their dreams are unrealistic. The argument is more precise and more uncomfortable than either of those positions. It is about what happens when the gap between the identity someone has been given and the reality they are living in becomes too wide to bridge with belief alone. Here's what that gap produces in practice, and it is worth recognizing because it is far more common than anyone discusses honestly. A person told consistently they are exceptional develops, often without ever noticing it happening, a deep and fragile need for their life to confirm that identity back to them. For their work to be recognized as genuinely brilliant rather than merely competent. For their relationships to feel profound rather than just ordinarily complicated. For their struggles to carry visible meaning rather than just being hard and inconvenient. For the arc of their life to be legibly special in a way that justifies the narrative they were handed before they were old enough to examine it. And when reality does not cooperate, which it frequently and democratically does not, the response is rarely honest recalibration. It is usually one of two things, and both cause real damage over time. Either a creeping and persistent sense that life has shortchanged them personally, that the specialness they were promised is being withheld by unfair circumstances, difficult people, or a run of bad luck that must eventually turn, or an escalating performance of exceptionalism, a persistent low-level need to signal they have taste and insight and ambition that sets them apart from everyone around them. Manson calls this the entitlement trap. What makes it genuinely a trap is that both exits feel worse than staying inside. Admitting you are ordinary feels like defeat and a betrayal of the story you were given. Performing exceptionalism indefinitely is exhausting and hollow in equal measure. So most people stay, cycling between quiet resentment and loud self-promotion, and neither produces anything resembling a genuinely good life. Here's the reframe that requires the most honesty to absorb and actually mean. Ordinary is not the consolation prize. It is not what you receive when you fail to achieve special. Ordinary is the actual texture of most human experience, including the people whose lives looked genuinely extraordinary from the outside. The celebrated writer had ordinary mornings where nothing came. The recognized leader had ordinary doubts about whether any of it was worth the cost. The visionary had ordinary weeks where nothing worked and they showed up anyway because the work mattered independently of whether anyone was watching or applauding. The problem with entitlement is not that it sets the bar too high. It is that it ties your entire sense of self-worth to external confirmation that will always be unreliable, always insufficient, and always outside your control, regardless of how hard you work or how deserving you genuinely are. Manson's alternative is a value system that does not need the world's verdict to function. One you can honestly meet or fail to meet based on your own clear-eyed assessment of how you are actually living, not on whether other people have noticed and confirmed it yet. Before episode 4, do this. Identify one area of your life where you are quietly waiting for external confirmation before you allow yourself to feel like you are doing well enough. Recognition at work, validation from a relationship, numbers on a screen someone else controls. Ask what it would mean to assess that area by your own internal standard instead. Not lower standards, different ones. Standards you actually chose and can honestly measure without anyone else's input or approval. Episode 4 takes on the hardest idea in this entire book. You are not responsible for everything that happened to you, but you are completely responsible for everything that comes after. Subscribe so you do not miss it.